So when they die, they just die. They're not dramatic when they die, I guess would be a way to put it. This is the part of the video where I become very nerdy and bizarre, and not a lot of people are going to identify with what I'm saying, I'm sure. It's a whole ass haunted mansion. We're in Luigi's haunted mansion with this book. Welcome back to the crypt. I've been wanting to do a video like this for a really long time because even though it's not outdated because I still use those same supplies, but I did more of a writing tools video about my tools for making stories, like what programs I use, that kind of thing. But there are lots of different kinds of writing I do, journaling, note-taking, etc. And I kind of want to be nerdy and talk about those kinds of supplies. Very first thing we're going to start with is actually pens. My most used pen is the Juice Up by Pilot. I have a bunch in the 04, but I've also used the 05 before. Now, thankfully, these are some of the most common pens here in Japan. So you guys are seeing like the really nice ones that my friend gifted me from a limited edition collection. But whether it's limited edition or not doesn't matter because all of the colors for the collection are core colors from the original line. They're really easy to control. It's a really fine tip. You can get very precise with them. They do have a very wet ink, pigmented, but a little bit on the wet side. I don't notice too much of a problem, dries down pretty quickly, but if you're left-handed, you know, be aware that it is a very wet ink. I've used so many of them. They're my absolute favorite pen. And they're not very expensive either. Like I said, it's one of the most common ones here, so you can get them at most stationery stores and they'll cost you like 100 yen, maybe with tax, maybe like $1.20, $1.30, roughly USD. Cheap and very, very good. I also love the Sarasa vintages. Caitlin Gray, I believe, is the one who turned me on these. And they're just so good. These are really solid. Sarasa as a brand, I've noticed their pens are a little hit and miss for me. I noticed like their pastel pens, for example, and their milky pens are not my favorite. They have problems, especially the white one. However, these vintages are gorgeous. The colors are deeply saturated. And what I really love about them is they really are dusty colors. Like even colors like this blue, which I'm usually not a fan of blue ink, but this blue ink is a dusty blue. It's so nice. If you're into very rich dual tones, if you're into richer, dustier tones, I think you'll really like this. And they're very smooth. They write very smooth. When they run out quickly. Like you go from tons of ink to none. Instead of it sputtering, it's just all of a sudden, which means that the ink flows very nicely through these. There's not a sputtering problem. At least I haven't had that. So when they die, they just die. They're not dramatic when they die, I guess would be a way to put it. The next I want to talk about is something that a friend of mine actually got me on. Now, I have had trouble with erasable pens for forever. The best is like, I have a limited edition Frixion, and it's been pretty good. This is actually one of the better ones I've used. But the actual Frixion line, like the actual ones that you change out, the nice line, this is solid. These appear almost, not quite, but almost as saturated as a full actual ink. Not only that, but there are so many colors that you can get, and I'm really impressed with the line. A friend of mine actually gifted me this because she's using a different one right now. It is so, so good. I love it. But there are ones that I've gotten. I don't want to grab them right now, but they're not refillables, they're disposables. And they're from the same exact company. They're from Pilot. They suck. They suck rocks. Don't get them. You really want to make sure you get the refillable kind. Another pen I use a ton is one I had actually gotten in America for forever ago. I think I got it in a 3-pack, and I still use it. It's this old Papermate Flare size M. I use this to create headings and to differentiate breaks. When it does eventually go out, I'll probably just start using the microns more. My favorite micron that I use, I know you guys have probably heard these a million times, but I like the 005, the really, really tiny one, because it's so tiny I can get really in there for details. 08 would probably be a pretty good replacer for this. It'd actually be a little more accurate than this is. This next one is really new to my collection, and by new I mean a couple days ago. This is a Lamy. I have been researching fountain pens for a really long time, and I always wanted to pay a little bit of money to get a solid one because I have used ones from Daiso before. They suffice, but they're not great. Specifically, the grip is actually quite painful. They don't grip very well. They're just not very well made. I did that just to see if I would like the feel of a fountain pen. And when I tell you that it is not the same, it's really not the same. And I knew it wouldn't be the same, but Lamy is nice. And it's not so nice that it's breaking your bank and stealing your soul. It's some money, but it's not that much. Like, this isn't crazy out of budget. It's just, you know, save up a little bit, but you can get it. This is so smooth. I think this is the All-Star all black version, so even the nib is black. I love this. Now, I only have the ink that it came with, which is just this blue cartridge ink. That's really nothing to write home about. The ink itself is boring as hell, but this is so smooth. I can see why people become fanatics about fountain pens. It writes so nicely with almost no pressure. Like, it's so good. So yeah, if you've been looking into fountain pen, you're afraid it'll be like scratchy sounding or something. Not a sound. Silent. It's so nice. I do recommend this one. Some other mentions, some fun mentions of something that I use all the time in my bullet journal are these metallic pens. These are the Uniball Signo, and I've got it in the silver and the gold. Is that all my pens? I mean, aside from like basics like Tombow, I got the skin tone range Tombos, like this kit of Tombos that's like skin colors. That's been one of the best investments. I use those the most because they're neutral colors and they're cool tone, neutral tones, and warm tones, and I can use those with pretty much everything that I make. Another honorable mention is the mild liners. I know you guys probably hear about these a ton. They are quite nice. I like the neutrally colors, like the browns and the very light, you know, colors that, again, can go with anything. I can pair them with a lot of different stuff I do in my bullet journal or just my regular journals, and they're just enough to differentiate what I'm doing, but they're not so bright that they're obnoxious or bad looking. I don't have much in terms of mechanical pencil, guys. I don't even think I filmed a close-up. I just have this mechanical pencil from Pilot that was a gift from one of my coworkers, and I love it. It's very pretty. It's like a starscape, but it's just a basic mechanical pencil. Okay, with all of that said, I do believe it is time to get into actual notebooks, assuming my camera is still filming. So the very first thing is the notebooks I use probably the most. I have burned through sets and sets and sets of these, are the campus notebooks. You can get these very easily in Japan. They're pretty cheap. I have a limited edition set here that I have gotten that I haven't broken open quite yet, but I will probably soon. I'm a teacher here in Japan, and I use these notebooks for lesson plans, so I burn through these notebooks. I will say that one of the things that a lot of people like about Japanese paper is it's got this smoothness to them. People love that. It's so smooth and soft. I hate it, and the reason I hate it is because I have to use a pen. One of the reasons I become such a pen fanatic here in Japan is because they adhere pen quite well, but I found that whether or not they pick up pencil is random. That coating does not grab lead very well, and I feel like it's, you know, that sound when something is like squeaking against a surface? I pick up on that with some, not all, but some of them, and one of them is campus. I do not like using pencil on campus notebooks. I want to scream when I do. I do not like it. A lot of people don't even notice. This is the part of the video where I become very nerdy and bizarre, and not a lot of people are going to identify with what I'm saying, I'm sure. I love these notebooks. These are the soft ring notebooks from the Kokyo line. Now, I love these because the spine right here is like, you remember those jelly shoes back in the, oh God, those were bad. Jelly shoes, not a good idea. Jelly rings, great idea. They do not hurt you. They're quite soft and springy. You can see that I used pencil for this whole page because at the time, I was too lazy to go grab a pen, but I remember my teeth were on edge writing in pencil on this. I'm not sure how well you guys can see. This pencil is really light on this page. It just does not, because it's slick paper. I can't stand it. I really wish that this line, because this company actually does have a line of paper, and we'll get to that in a little bit, that's rougher, that doesn't have the slickness, that coating, it doesn't have it. But unfortunately, as far as I know, all of their soft rings are all the smooth paper. I hate it. I hate smooth paper. That does not mean, unfortunately, that just getting cheap paper is the answer. Recently, because I just need a cheapo notebook for my scripts for videos, because I burned through my last one. I have too many scripts, y'all. So I just bought, you know, a notebook from Daiso, and I bought the first one that didn't have the slick paper. This paper is horrible, and it takes lead. The lead shows up just fine here, so if I want to use pencil, I can. But it's scratchy in a way that is not good. And I can't explain why. I just know that's the bad scratchy. Not all rough paper is created equal, unfortunately. There is a solution. There is hope on the horizon. This is a more recent find. I found this at the tail end of November, I believe, is when I found this. It's Kokuyo. Why was I flipping to those? Because I'm stupid. Kokuyo. That brand makes a very particular line called the Perp Anep. I don't know, y'all. Anyway, they have 3 different types. They have the smooth, semi-smooth, and then they have the rough. And I actually got the rough one. And this thing, it's flat correctly. Yes. Usually when journals are like this, they do not fall flat, and it bugs me. This one falls completely flat. I'm so happy with it. The only downside to this line is this is the only way it comes. It comes with this light blue tape kind of look on the side, and that is the way it is. This is the only way you can get this. They don't have, to my knowledge, they do not have this paper type in any other format. They don't have the soft ring. They don't have it in any other journal type. This is, so you gotta like this or get like a book cover for it or something. And it's been great. And I've been enjoying, like every time I use the paper, it just makes me happy. It works very well. So let's get into some actual journals now that we've kind of gotten to the journaling aspect instead of just like notebooks. I wanna talk about ones that didn't work first, real quick. And that would be I always say Stalogy, but I don't think that's actually how you pronounce it, but that's fine. Anyway, I put the sticker here, but it's a nice design. I wish it worked. I really do, because I like how the pages feel. There is a slight slickness to the pages, but not too much. I would think that this is probably considered a semi. It's got a little bit of coating, but not too much. Not enough for it to feel like, oh, to me. Major problem though. In order for them to fit so many pages in this, there's a catch, because there's always a catch. They had to make the pages like tissue paper. Not in tissue paper in that if you try to draw on it, it rips, because it doesn't rip. But it does ghost badly. Like so badly that it's so distracting, I cannot write on the reverse side of a page. I have to skip a page. Which kind of defeats the purpose of this having 365 pages, because I'm only going to use half of that because it's so obnoxious to me. The ghosting is so bad. I can't reread it. So what I use it for right now is note taking, where I'm getting my thoughts together, but not notes that I would reference. Which sucks, because I think for cost effectiveness, it's one of the better journals, but I can't with the ghosting. And the thing is, I knew it was going to ghost. I knew that. I knew there was going to be visible lines on the other side of the page because people had warned me, but people were pretty gentle about it online. They were like, yeah, there's a little bit. It's a whole ass haunted mansion. We're in Luigi's haunted mansion with this book. There are ghosts everywhere, and they're very obvious. Just saying. Okay, now we get into probably the thing that a lot of people know the most, and that is the big 3. So, we have Notebook Therapy, which I forgot to film, so sorry, but y'all know what Notebook Therapy looks like. It looks identical to Archer and Olive, except Archer and Olive has a pen loop, which I hate, and Archer and Olive has a nice little thing on one of their bookmarks, which I actually do enjoy because it differentiates between the bookmarks. First up, the Archer and Olive versus Notebook Therapy. These two are identical. Unless you're going to use this pen loop, unless you use this, there's no difference. They're the same thickness, the 160. I think it's 160, right? Is it 160 or 180? I don't know. I don't care. It's really high grade paper. The whole reason I got the higher GSM is because I was going from those lower GSM pages, which the ghosting, again, apparently I can't get over that. So I wanted things to not ghost. So I went this. This is too much. This is too much. Because the thing of it is, they're so thick that yes, I could do quite a lot with these. And I did. So like the beginning of January, for example, I went ahead and utilized it for some watercolor. And I was able to safely do that without it harming the page behind it. I was able to use some markers and it turned out quite nice, I think. But here's the thing. When I actually went through this to the other months, I realized that realistically speaking, I just don't break out my watercolors for my journal. And the reason I wasn't, the paper quality, although it can handle watercolors, paints, etc., it doesn't handle it well. Yes, it doesn't bleed completely through to the other side, but it doesn't blend because it's not meant for that. It's not art paper. So if I use watercolor, that watercolor is not blending. So over time, I realized that I don't really utilize this high of a grade of paper. The problem with something this high quality paper is there isn't very much paper in this. So I was only able to get, I think at the end of the day, I got maybe barely 5 months, but the 5th month is squished. It's squished. So realistically, I really only got 4 months out of this. For my reading notebook, it's a little bit better. I utilize it a little bit more because I only set up spreads seasonally, so it doesn't really matter as much. For my main journal, I just don't use it that way, and I realize that. So I don't want the ghosting, but I also don't need it to be quite this high GSM because then I don't have enough pages to make it worth my while, and I don't want to keep transferring journals every 4 months. That's my nightmare. Long story short, we get to Lycrum. Traditionally, Lycrum journals have lower GSM and they're bad for ghosting, but I found out that their little collaboration they did with Bullet Journal, the version 2, not version 1, version 2 is 120 GSM. This is the journal that I'm still currently using. I am still like, we're bringing this into the next year. I have gotten almost 8 months in this sucker. I am very proud of how long this journal has kept up with me. This is like the perfect page thickness for me. It's thick enough that there is no ghosting whatsoever, but it's not so thick that it's unpleasant to use. Like when I flip through it, use it, bend it, manipulate it, it's good. The problem, Lycrum is not sold in Japan normally. Lycrum does not ship to Japan straight from their company. And on Amazon, there are very few Lycrum products. Very, very few. Only their most common journals, which of course are not the higher quality GSM. They're the lower quality. But my family was very nice. And for Christmas, they gifted me one and sent it to me as a Christmas present. I'm very grateful. So I do have this. I have not opened it yet because I'm still using my old one. I think I should be able to pull this old one through till spring. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of upset that I like this. Lycrum is so hard to get a hold of here in Japan, so I'm kind of irritated that I like it, but I do. It is what it is. So yeah, that was way too much ranting from me about stuff that most people don't care about, but that's okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know all of your little things that you like or don't like about writing materials down below. Be as nerdy as you'd like. I would love it. Happy writing this month. Bye.